Hey lads, short video today talking about one of the major changes that we had in patch 10.1, which is the gearing system. I'm going to share my first impression about it, some negatives, some positives, and even some suggestions on what and how it could be improved. Obviously, the most exciting thing about the new gearing system are the crests. They are much better than the previous Valor systems for several reasons. First, their acquisition is much faster than the Valor, but the major difference is that if you upgrade something using crests, those crests are basically not wasted. The biggest fear with the Valor system was to upgrade something and then get a better piece at the same slot with better strats, higher item level, etc. And then you had to spend more Valor to upgrade that again, but the Valor that you spent on the previous piece was basically lost. That problem is definitely solved by the crests, because if you spend crests once to upgrade something to a certain item level, then you don't have to spend more crests to get back to that level if you get a lower item level for something on that slot. You would only need to spend flight stones instead, which are basically free and you can get them everywhere, which I think is awesome. This is definitely a very positive improvement into the right direction. It still had some thought process of, do I update that item or do I update the other item, because you're limited in the amount of crests you can spend every week. But overall, that system felt really good, really engaging. I was updating items left and right compared to Valor, where I would sit on my Valor basically for the whole season, afraid to spend it and make a wrong decision there. So this system gave us a lot of freedom, a lot of flexibility, and yes, I had some comments about people saying, oh, we gear too fast, etc. But personally, I felt the pace was pretty good. If you play more, you get more gear, but there's still weekly caps, so you cannot just get everything to the max item level for the first week. And if you played less, of course, you couldn't reach the caps, etc. on ults. So naturally, the gearing process there would be a little bit slower, which I guess is expected if you don't play that much. Now, it's not all flowers with the crest, there are some negatives there as well. And the main thing was the discrepancy of farming 11 to 15 keys to get the worm crest to upgrade the gear, but then the gear you would actually like to upgrade would fall from 17 plus and above, so you can eventually upgrade it to 441. In other words, it would make no sense for you to farm something in a plus 15 or a plus 16 dungeon, because even if it drops for you, then you would have to farm it again on a 17, so you can eventually upgrade it to that 441 max level, which you can achieve with the crests. At the same time, the 17s and above would drop aspect crests, which you would cap very quickly, but then you would miss the worm quest, which you actually need to upgrade the gear. It also felt pretty bad achieving the point where you can do higher level dungeons, but then you would have to go back into 11s to farm the worm crests, which to someone like me feels like a chore and boring thing to do when you can push a little bit higher keys. Now, Blizzard did say that they're intending to fix that. First, they're going to put the crests into the currency tab, which is great because they take too much backspace, and then if you're capped on aspect crests and you're running plus 17 and above, you would instead get the worm crests. Now, I think that's a great idea, but that idea is somewhere far in the future, and I think that they should have implemented this immediately when they saw that it is actually a problem. We were already forced to farm the worm quest into plus 11 this season. Some people got bored, some people might have quit the game because of it, and we basically had to go through that negative experience, which could have been easily avoided if they implemented that change at this point, which I don't think would have costed much for them. So yeah, positive things coming, identifying problems, but at least in my opinion, maybe a little bit too slow with the fix, because at this point it's already irrelevant, which brings me to my next point. It's eventually you get to a point where your crests are capped. I used them all to upgrade the gear on my main, and now they're just sitting in my bags, piling up, but there's nothing to use them on. You spend the first few weeks in the patch just farming them and getting as many as possible, and now they're just garbage that sits there in your bags. And although this is not a major issue, again, I really like the system, I really like how the upgrades work, but I'm mentioning this because since you have them in abundancy, we can actually implement some changes into the game which would use them and make the game better. Now, Blizzard already kinda did this last season when we had the primos, and at some point they actually let us exchange them for reputation. But I have a better suggestion which could possibly solve another problem which is huge in the game right now, at least for me. I have spent on my shaman the first couple of weeks of the patch into Vortex Pinnacle farming the healing Rainsong trinket over and over and over and over again, and I still don't have it. And to me, that's the biggest problem with the gearing system right now. there is no bad luck protection. I lost count to the amount of runs in Vortex Pinnacle that I did. I really wanted to go and see the other dungeons, make some content about it, learn, experience. But I was stuck in Vortex Pinnacle, farming the Rainsong Trinket. I got so bored of this dungeon that I'm really even thinking I should quit the game, because even if I get the damn trinket, I have to come back and do it all over again on my paladin. Get another Rainsong. Why? I want to play this game with the other dungeons, push some keys, but no, I'll be stuck farming Rainsong Trinket for the whole of the season. And this is not a case that just happened now. I remember doing 40 plus runs in Mist of Tyrannicide to get the changeling on my paladin, and I remember running numerous runs in Tazavesh to get the Celeste Trinket. So all of this feels very unfair to people who invest a lot of time to farm something and it never drops, and at the same time I have some people coming to my stream and saying, hey, the Rainsong dropped on my first run in Vortex Pinnacle and I got it. And yeah, I'm very happy for those people, but I'll be spending the next 2 or 4 weeks in Vortex Pinnacle because I have other olds that I need to farm this on. So yeah, that is a huge problem right now in the game, at least for me, and I feel that there's other people who feel the same way. So from that perspective, I think it's imperative to have something like the dinner system that we had at the end of Shadowlands, so you can actually have a chance to obtain some of the items that make your class feel powerful, or even enable you to play at all. Give an example with the bow for the hunters that they had to farm the last tier. So this is a point where you can actually use the abundant crest to do something. Maybe every time you complete a dungeon, you can slot some crests into like a box at the end, and it will give you just a little fragment, and then when you get enough fragments, you can actually get an item from this dungeon, which would be your bad luck protection, or even you can make a roll for an extra piece of personal loot using some crests, which is still random and it could still make you stay the whole season in the same dungeon, but it would be better than nothing and it would give some usages for the abundance crests. Or maybe you can insert and slot the crests into your vault to guarantee that, let's say, one slot is going to give you a trinket every time, or a weapon or another piece that you need, because let's face it, the vault is horrible. The only reason we put up with the vault is that it gives us higher item levels than what we could get otherwise. But if we had a choice, I think everyone would throw this big RNG box out of the window if they had the opportunity to do so. So even if it's not dinars, even if they don't allow us to have a bad luck protection, maybe at least have some way and currency to insert into the vault and guarantee that you're going to get a piece of a specific type that you're looking for. As I had the most horrible experience with the vault last tier, I got a shield for 47 or whatever the equivalent was back then. I got a shield in the vault for healing, I was very happy, I took it, and then I farmed a whole week of dungeons to get all the slots filled in, and guess what happens next week? I get not 1 but 3 shields in the vault, which I don't need anymore because I already got one. So I spent all this time playing the game and I got absolutely nothing at the end. That felt pretty bad. So I think that's another great opportunity for that abundance currency to be invested into something and update another part of the game which is kinda lacking and providing some pretty negative experience, which the vault actually is. And at the end, let me mention my experience with acquiring the tier this season. This one actually felt pretty good on my main, but this is because I raid, and also that new addition to the game where you can get a piece for free if you achieve 2k IU rating in M+, if you kill the final boss, etc. All of these changes were awesome, because I remember last season I got 3 pieces and I was stuck obtaining the last one because it wouldn't drop, etc. Now you have the freedom to obtain each one of the 5 on your choice as long as you achieve something in the game. This is actually on point, it felt pretty good. And investing all the time to play the raid, eventually play some M+ dungeons, I was able to get my 4-piece set relatively quick on my main, which is the Shaman. However, my ults are still at 0 because I simply do not raid on them. I like to play them in M+, push some keys, but right now I'm not even motivated to get a 2k rating on them, because that would grant me only 1 piece, it's not going to be even 2 set bonus unless I get really lucky in the vault and I get a piece there. Or in other words, the catalyst is going to be here eventually, but it's way too slow. There's like 2 weeks more that we have to wait for them to arrive, and then until you get a 4-piece, if you're not trading again, you will have to wait 2, 3, 4 more weeks. So basically it will be somewhere mid-July where I can obtain a 4-piece on my ults. Considering that this patch released in the beginning of May, that's a lot of time. That's way too much time. So basically the options that I have on my oaths are pretty bad overall. I either don't play the oath, which is bad because we actually want to play the game, or I make a compromise and I play the game without the 4 set, which feels pretty bad because everybody else has it by now, right? And it would just feel that I'm really far behind if I play with people who already have it. Or the last option is to wait 2.5 months after the patch actually released so I can start playing my oath and get a set. That feels even worse. So that's another opportunity for those abundance tokens. You can probably exchange them somehow for a tier, even if the catalyst is not here, so you can catch up and start playing different tunes other than your main. Or even your main if you are not a riding person, you just want to do M+, but you're instead forced to go into the raid to get the tier in the first few weeks. That, I guess, also feels pretty bad for some people. It definitely feels bad for me, being forced to go and raid on oaths, which I just decided not to do this tier. So yeah, overall some positive changes in the right direction. The crests feel really good, but I think there's a lot more to be desired, especially when it comes to obtaining tier or farming some pieces that basically never drop for you, no matter if it's a trinket, a weapon, or something else. Those issues contribute to some very negative experiences in the game, but I think they can be easily mitigated with some of the suggestions that I already gave, or something else that Blizzard obviously could come up with very easily. So let me know what you think about this. Do you like this new gearing system, and what was your experience so far with it? Also, if you have some comments or ideas on top of mine, please feel to drop them down in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, happy keying and good luck.